Hey, thank you for taking the time for today's video. Let me ask a question. Have you become married and entered into a blended family relationship? Now, this can happen a number of different ways. Maybe you were a single mom and you finally found love and he has children and you have children. Maybe you have lost your spouse and you've gotten remarried and both of you have kids. Maybe both of you have become divorced and now you're entering into this relationship as a second marriage or more, and you've both got children. One of the things we want to discuss today is the ramifications of that marriage and having a blended family, and most importantly, what's going to happen after a person passes. So on the board, we've got a little bit of a graphic, right? We've got, we'll presume you, and then we've got presuming him. In this case, you have 2 children, he has 3. You know, when we think about beneficiaries, and this could be a beneficiary to a life insurance policy, this could be a beneficiary to an annuity contract, this could be a beneficiary to, say, a brokerage account. We need to be thinking about making certain that that money goes to an actual human being. We don't want that money going into your estate because then it gets caught into probate and so on and so forth. So oftentimes I see pretty frequently that the person that has their name on that savings account, that annuity, that life insurance policy, that brokerage, they want to be as fair and equitable as possible. And in the absence of a prenuptial agreement, I often find that there's a little bit of a mental struggle. This person here is going to feel somewhat obligated to make certain that this person over here receives the money when they die. Obviously, it's their spouse, it's their husband or their wife. But I want you to be thinking about this because there's some major ramifications. Let's just say that you had $500,000 sitting in a brokerage account and you've become convinced that now that you're married and you think that you love this person, you want to spend the rest of your life with this person, you trust this person. Well, when you die, you want your money to list them as a primary beneficiary. Here's the ramification. When you die, that money is obviously going to avoid probate and it's going to be listing that spouse, that surviving spouse. Well, when that $500,000 transfers from you to him, now what happens to that money? That money is now officially going to be all his. Now, I want you to think through that for just a moment, because if it's now officially his money, what does that mean for your children right here? What it means is that he is now in total control of that money. And unless there is some sort of absolute trust or absolute agreement, legally speaking, that he's now going to take whatever he receives from you, and when he dies, if he has not consumed all of that money, that he's going to send some of that money to your children, well, guess where it's naturally going to flow to? It's going to naturally flow directly to his kids. Now, here's another ramification that we need to be thinking about. Oftentimes, people think that if I give to my spouse, then my spouse can go ahead and give to my kids. But depending upon the state in which you live, that means that your children, which are not his by, say, adoption, they're not his biologically, now all of a sudden, those children could potentially end up paying inheritance tax. Now, how is that even possible when biologically they were your children? Well, you see, they're not biologically attached to that person. They are not adopted by this person. Therefore, when this gentleman gives your biological children part of the money, if you happen to live in a state that's going to charge inheritance tax, well, that's a non-relative in the state's eyes. So as a result, even though this was your money to begin with and they are your biological children, they could end up receiving and paying an inheritance tax just to receive a portion of your money. So sounds complicated, doesn't it? Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind. The first is there is absolutely no shame in having a prenuptial agreement. Number 2, if you think about beneficiaries, remember that oftentimes we're conditioned to think that a primary beneficiary only equals one person. And then contingents can mean children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, multiple people. But that is not true. When I'm working with a person who has now entered into a blended family, it is absolutely 100% advisable and prudent to make certain that not only are you listing potentially a portion of your own personal retirement to them if you feel that they should get it, and you're listing them as a partial primary beneficiary, but you were also taking and listing your own children as primary beneficiaries as well. If you want to think about it this way, you could do a third to him and 2/3 to each of your children, or to the two kids that you have. This is something that we want to make absolutely sure that we are paying attention to. Pay attention to your bank accounts. Pay attention to annuities if you have them. Pay attention to life insurance, and pay attention to brokerage accounts. All of those things have the capability of being able to allow you total control of directing where, whom, and how much of your money goes to those certain individuals. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Maybe you've learned a little something. If you have, I encourage you to give us a thumbs up. Share this with your friends. It's awfully important. Though it be small, it's a big deal. And if you like our little videos, hit that little bell, that little subscribe button, and we'll notify you each and every week that we have a video. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Matthew Johnson, and remember, it's up to you to make today a great day.